Hey everyone, today we painting a German infantry from the height of the war. We are going to take a classic cold weather look, a standard issues of a field grey overcoat, paint with the autumn camouflage oak leaf. So, let's get started. The standard feature of this model is the long grey coat. To get authentic heavy wool look, I choose the German Tank Crew 2. Even though the name is suggests Panzer Crew, this special grey-green hue is a perfect match for the field grey wool used in the mid-war overcoats. The special inspiration for this color choice comes from the early war MG42 squad in Enlisted. If you look at the squad, their coats have this very district slate grey look. Even though this paint is labeled for tank crew, this cold green-grey tone is perfect for match the heavy atmosphere wool look you see in the game. Now moving on to Parka, for this layer I'm using pale brown as my base color. When you look at the early war MG42 squad, in Enlisted their camouflage smoke have this very special thick, warm, earthly undertone. Using pale brown instead of a standard tan give this camo a lot of more depth. It serves as the perfect soil color for the authentic oak leaf pattern I'm about to apply. For the skin tone, I'm using Barbarian Flesh. I choose this specific shade because if you look at the soldier in the Enlisted MG42 squad, they don't have a peeled clean skin. They look weathered. Barbarian Flesh has that slightly warmed, depth undertone that perfectly simulates a soldier who has exposed to the elements for the weeks. Moving on to the gear, I'm using Khaki for the backpack. If you check out the reference from Enlisted, you notice that their gear isn't a uniform color. The soldiers have the realistic mix of canvas leather and the wool. Now for my most satisfying part, the camouflage spot. To finish the autumn oak leaf pattern, I'm using Camouflage Black Brown. If you look at the inspiration from the Enlisted MG42 squad, the camouflage isn't just a blur of color, it has a very dark display spot that break up the soldier's silhouette. I'm using a deep black brown over a pale brown base to create a sharp, high contrast look that's so iconic for mid-war SS unit. I'm applying those irregular clues, the donut shape across the helmet. To bring all this color together and add some real drift, I'm using dark tone for some shading process. I'm applying this wash generously over the German MG42 overcoat to define the wool folds and also on the khaki backpack to make straps pop. Now, to really make the details of the overcoat stand out, I'm moving on the fabric layer stage. I'm using German field grey to highlight the recess area of the fabric, while the base of the German MG42 give us that cold, slate grey foundation we saw in the Enlisted reference. This layering of the German field grey as the classic olive tinted hue of the German uniform. I'm focusing on the folds, the collar and the edges of the coat to create a 3D effect. It mimics the way light hit the heavy wool in the game engine. But to truly do justice to this overcoat, I had to belong just shading to the coat is a large surface on the model, and in Enlisted it's what gives that heavy importer silhouette to replace that look of the thick military grade wool. I use a special layer process. By layering there's two tones, I'm mixing the high field look from the game, but to really push the realism and simulator that bring the Eastern Front cold, I finish the highlights with a mix of German field grey and the sky grey. I'm applying this brightly mix, especially to the long vertical folds and the hem of the coat. This simulates how the light catches the heavy coarse wool as the deepers down, adding the sky grey into the final highlights, giving the fabric slightly frost of the warm outlook, which often see in the cold high contrast environment of the Enlisted. With the field grey are set, I move to layering the parka. For this stage I'm using pale brown to build up the volume on the torso. As you can see, on the model I applying pale brown as over the darker dresses helps define the shapes of the quality parka before I ever start with the camouflage. In Enlisted, there's winter smoke have a very district duty under tone under the oak leaf pattern by layering the special shade. I'm creating a warm earthy foundation that make a camouflage feel like it's part of the fabric, rather than just sitting on the top of it. It also creates a perfect visual break between the cold highlight German field grey of the lower coat of the busy pattern of the upper body. This layer technique ensures that even under the dark camouflage spots, the jacket has its own sense of weight and light. To finish off the camouflage, I went back for a layering stage on the dark spots using Camouflage Black Brown. Even though we already have our base and wash down, this extra layer of black brown is what gives us the oak leaf pattern and punch. Instead, the camouflage on the MG42 squad is very high contrast, The dark spots need to look deep and sharp to affect the break up the soldier silhouette against the snow. By layering this color, especially instead the excited spots, I'm getting rid of any transmission from the wash and making the pattern pop against the pale brown base. Is this the final level of the definition that makes the parka look authentic military gear? It ties the whole upper body together and ensures that even from distance the camouflage look incredible and battle warm. To create the actual oak leaf pattern, I'm working with two layers of spots. First, I'm using light brown to create warmer orange tone clothes. If you look at the parka, the camouflage isn't dark spots on the brown base. It has a light pop color that simulates the dry authentic leaves. By placing light brown spots first, I'm building the complex layered look. Lastly, we can't forget the primary weapon. For the highlights on the MP40, I use a gunmetal shade. To wrap up the achievement, I went back to the backpack for final highlights. I used German Camo Beige to layer over the Khaki base. To finish the miniature, I need a base tell a story from Earth in front. I start with a base coat of chocolate brown. Instead of just using the flatbed or grey, the chocolate brown represents the rich church mud mentioned first. On uniform you can see how this dark earth provides a heavy realistic foundation for the snow and the tuft of the grass. In Enlisted the maps are often a mix of mud, slush and deep snow, and this brown tone peak through the wild texture create the mess battle harder atmosphere. And I'm also do some rock. To add some geological related to the mud and snow, I painted the sketch rock using concrete. To truly sell the frozen atmosphere, I add some winter grass stuff to the base. The very last step to pull the wall and my plan together was adding the fallen snow. For this I use white grey from AK. To tie everything together, I use the same white for weathering. And that's the finished MG42 member. Full gear up for the winter 1943. If you enjoyed this breakdown of the Enlisted painted scam, don't forget to like and subscribe for more miniature tutorial. Thanks for watching and see you in the next video. Goodbye.